So the first thing is to understand what is blocking you right now. How do you encourage and give way for your inner leader to rise and emerge and manifest in your current work with your team, with your people, and of course this will apply to family and to everyone who's around you. So first you want to change the situation that you are in right now. There's something not working well, a dynamic, you want to overcome it, but you are not sure how to do it. So I'll take you through two small exercises. I want you to identify someone inside your company or outside of your company that has a behavior that you really judge and you never want to be associated with that type of behavior. And then I want you to select someone whose behavior you really admire and you wish you were more like this person, him or her. So please write down on a paper a behavior that you really judge and you say, I don't ever want to be like that. This is awful, and it will be better if it's something that's really bothering you right now in your current workplace or on your team, something that's really annoying you, and then something that's really beautiful, someone you just are in awe of them, they're spectacular because they do this and this. On the behavior that you don't like, and you wrote it down, so imagine you wrote arrogant or forceful or passive, right? So imagine you wrote one of these words. I want you to write the exact opposite of that word. And now I want you to write the opposite of the behavior that you most love. So you will see now two things. The first one, on the negative behavior, you never want to be associated with that behavior. And you now understand that the opposite of that behavior is who you are, is how you show up in life as a leader at work and in the family. It's almost a deep core value of yours to be like that. That's why this other person annoys you so much or triggers you so much. You can never move away from being 100% absolutely the opposite of what that person is showing you. So this means there's an imbalance because you are not free to choose. Sometimes we need to be leaders, sometimes we need to be followers. So when you judge a person very harshly, it means, or you see a behavior as very negative, it means first that you're not seeing the truth, and second, that you need to integrate that energy. And it's the lack of integration of that energy that is stopping you from allowing the inner leader to emerge. What does this mean? A behavior is not good or bad. It's just the judgment that you have over it. Because if you can see the intention that's behind the behavior, then you will understand the truth. But because you judge it so harshly, then you just say, I don't want this, this is not part of my life, I hate these people, I hate the people that do that. But usually, the more you hate a person that does something, the most probable it is that they have exactly what you seek, and you don't understand why they have it. It is because you are trapped in a duality. You will not allow yourself to extend your behavior to that point. But on the other side of that behavior, there is light. And while you keep denying that behavior, you will not see that light. The problem is that you will not want to do that negative behavior because you have associated so much pain with it while growing up that you made sure to become its absolute opposite. But we can never only be one thing. We need to be able and free to choose. So think about a tough situation in your work that you have gone through, and think about having done something like this person that you are judging. And you will see that there would be positive outcomes out of that. So beware of judging very harshly other people. It's because you are projecting something that you deny in yourself. And that's why it upsets you so much. and not integrating that energy and not understanding the intention behind it, that's what's stopping you from moving forward, from allowing your inner leader to rise. Then on the other hand, we have the people we just love, and we would like to have some of those qualities within us. So while on the negative judgment, this is something that you don't want to be, on the positive judgment, it's something that you believe you can't be. So on this positive light judgment, I want you to write down the reasons why you think you cannot be like this person. So again, you are projecting outside of yourself something that is within, because you are whole and complete. And you are projecting outside of yourself something that's within, because you believe deep down that you cannot be like this person for whatever reason. So write down what is that reason. Only you will know what's the reason why you cannot be like them. That reason, it's not the truth. It's just a link that you have associated with a certain type of people not being able to become or to be like those things that you admire. So we need to break it down to understand what is in the way, what is truly in the way of you reclaiming that light to you, because it is already yours. You are just projecting it. So write down what it is that you believe stops you. And when you write the opposite of that judgment, that light judgment, so imagine you wrote charisma, when you write the opposite, invisibility, this is what you identify with. You will also see that this is how you show up in life, at work. You will show up as the opposite of that light shadow, that light judgment. So you see how you already have two behaviors that you are denying, that you are projecting outside of yourself, and you must reclaim. And how do we reclaim? First, you bring this to consciousness, right? So through doing this exercise, you understand that you are denying these and that these are within you, and that you must embrace them and integrate them out of love. So you will not become, imagine that you wrote aggressive as the behavior that you don't like, or forceful. You are not going to become a forceful person, but sometimes you will be free to choose. And sometimes to be a leader, you need to push and you need to be forceful. Otherwise, things just won't happen. But you won't do it out of fear. You will do it out of power, of light power, of love. And you must act on that behavior with an intention of love. So aggressiveness, forcefulness, not following rules, these are all judgments that are very harsh in terms of workplaces. One of the things that people were most bothered about was that people didn't follow their orders as direct reports. But the truth is, all great leaders set a new path for themselves and for others as well, and they refuse to follow orders. Some of the great names in the world that have changed our world refused to follow orders, like Gandhi and so many others. So you see, behind the behavior, there's always an intention that you need to see for the truth, for what it is. And while you are carrying judgment, you won't be able to see it, and you will continue denying it. But that's what's in the way of you moving forward. Whatever that person is doing, there's another side to that behavior. There's a consequence, there's a result. So if you have a person who's being forceful out of fear and just pushing you and threatening you, and if you don't do this, this will happen, and being forceful in this way, this is forceful out of fear. But if you are being forceful out of love because you believe that, for example, women should have the same voice in a room or in a meeting, or if youth should have the same voice, then you are being forceful out of love. You are bringing something that's good for you and good for others, and you are bringing a lot of advancement. It's about expansion. Now, if you are forcing someone to do something, you are contracting yourself and that person. You are pushing them to the corner. This is a behavior out of fear, but you see, it is the same behavior. It's just intention that you have behind it that changes everything. And when you are looking at a negative behavior, you are looking at it from a negative perspective, from a judgment perspective, from an ego perspective, from the forceful being pushing a person to the corner. But if you take forcefulness through an intention of love, you will see that we would get nowhere if we wouldn't have forceful people pushing their ways, their barriers, the limits, and pushing everyone, regardless of how much it costs them, to move things forward. So you must integrate that behavior that you are judging so harshly, and it's important that you see what's on the other side of that behavior. And a good way to do this is just to, if you were able to look into this person's eyes and see their soul, like deep down their eyes, what would you see? And that's the truth. And whatever this person is doing, if it's out of fear, it's a fear-based context and scenario, and you want to move away from it. And how do you move away from it? You integrate it to then transcend it to a reality where that doesn't exist anymore. And I'll show you how in a minute. Now let's go to the positive side. On the positive side, you understand that you wrote the opposite, so in this case was charisma, and you'd put invisible on the other side, and you have identified with the invisible. You are also an opposite. You are also trapped in a duality. On the negative side, you can't move from where you are, and on the positive side, you also can't move from where you are. Because if you believe that you cannot be that, and even if it's difficult and you consciously you'd like to be like that person, the truth is that subconsciously you have associated with being that with a fear. So what I want you to write is this. Write down the great things that would happen if you'd be like that person and you have that behavior naturally. And you're going to write, and in the beginning it's really amazing things, and oh, this would be so incredible, and I would do so much, and I could write, and everyone would look at me in the terms of charisma, and everyone's attention would be with me, and I could explain all my projects and all that I needed to say, and I could make sure that whatever my gifts are, that I could use them, and to the great value of the company or of the team. But as you write down, you will see that there will be a part of this scenario that you are not going to like. Maybe it's the part where, oh, now I have to speak in front of 500 people, or I will be chosen to be a role model, or so. When you project something that's a light shadow, how it's called, which is something that you admire, the becoming that is a fear to you. Becoming that is you have associated that with pain. Although consciously it doesn't seem like it, subconsciously, if you are in that position, the same as that person, you are going to feel a fear. And avoiding that fear is what makes you project a behavior, something you love, into another person. So, by now, let's just summarize this bit. You've understand that there is something in your work life that you want to change, and you have just now gained consciousness that there are negative behaviors that trigger you, that you must integrate to move on to the next level and then now allow yourself to lead from your inner leader. And there's also a positive behavior that for some reason you think that you cannot have, that you cannot demonstrate. And you are understanding now that truly becoming that person that demonstrates that behavior will bring you pain. At one point or the other, while you write all the magic and all the great things that would happen if you would attain it, there will be negative things as well. And this happens a lot. Sometimes people tell me that they want that promotion, they deserve that promotion, they don't understand why they haven't been promoted. But the fact is that consciously they want a promotion, but subconsciously, when they get a promotion, they'll have to lead people, they'll have to be strategic, they'll have to gain authority, to gain credibility, to be able to expand. And that may be worse than staying in a position of not being promoted. And until we understand what's subconsciously holding us back, we will not release it so we can become our inner leaders. And these are the exercises that I will keep bringing you so you can get closer and closer to your inner leader, your authentic leader. So now you need to reclaim both behaviors, the good and the bad. Good and the bad being judgments. We don't want to say that they are, because if the intention is good, then the behavior will be a positive one, just as we saw. So now how do you reclaim it? You must integrate that behavior within you. And how do you do that? You need to take for each of these behaviors, the positive and the negative one, you need to take one circumstance, one context that you have in your life right now, where you can take a spoonful of that behavior. What does that mean? Imagine a person who's forceful, right? And you've seen here, and you are judging this person as forceful, and on the other side you'd be passive, right? You'd never push your opinion. Sometimes you will say yes in meetings even though you don't agree, but you don't want to be forceful. So then you have to choose somewhere, a place where it's safe for you, where you can integrate that forcefulness, but out of love, out of a personal power that has an intention of love. So you have to choose a context, a meeting, a team, something where you are not expressing that opposite and where you start integrating it. So for example, if you are looking to be charismatic, then you must become that person. And what part of you is holding back? Maybe you have to step up and volunteer to give a presentation or to do something that's out there for you that you wouldn't do. Because charismatic people also have a lot of leverage. They will also put themselves out there, right? They're unafraid of showing themselves. So you see, there's always another side to what we're seeing, the good and the bad. And to integrate these behaviors and to say, I am free to choose, and I can transcend this conflict, I can transcend this limitation, I can transcend this internal duality. You can only do it by integrating that behavior, because then you'll be free to choose. So the conflict will no longer appear in your life. You'll create other people and you'll create other circumstances, but they will be more evolved than the place that you are right now. And the only way to do it is to integrate the behavior so then you can transcend it. How do you transcend it? Because it will no longer be about being forceful or not. It will be about the outcome. It will be about the resolution. It will be about win for everyone, a win for everyone. So choose one or two scenarios in your current work setting context where you can integrate both those behaviors. So take a step forward to do that, and then you'll understand that whatever fear comes up, because it will, you will transcend it. Whatever fear comes when you act, you have to think of two things: non-judgment and non-attachment. You do this action so you can integrate those behaviors and be free of the conflict. Whatever happens, you don't do it for an outcome, and you don't judge it as good or bad. Even if someone comes and says, oh, but you shouldn't have done this or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you need to face your fear so you can overcome it. And if you don't do that, if you don't make a presentation because you are afraid you are not charismatic enough, or if you don't present an idea because you don't want to be forceful, you are holding yourself back. You are not pushing yourself or pushing the world forward, because your fears stop you from being. They stop you from being your light, they stop you from being what you perceive as dark. But they are stopping you both. And if you don't expand to become whole and free to choose whatever it is that you need to choose at one moment, at one particular moment, your inner leader cannot rise, because you are conditioned by fear. Your behaviors are conditioned by the fear you have of demonstrating those behaviors. And while you are afraid, you are not authentic. While you act out of fear, you cannot act out of love. You cannot be authentic, you cannot be true to yourself or to others, And you will not be leading from your inner leader, which is what you want. Whatever vision you have for yourself in leadership will naturally occur when you become your inner leader. And this exercise is one of the steps to do that, and I'll be sharing many, many more.